Welcome to the PODCALV. Last time we were having this conversation about how love is connected to business, the ways of love, and what are the things that you need to get in count in order to feel happy, right? So we talk about the purpose and how to find the purpose and that thing that is called emotional salary. But then in the middle we talked about the nomad businesses and what a nomad business is like. And my promise was to develop the topic today. So in my masterclass, you will find more details about how to actually create a nomad business and how to actually live out of your talent. But to create a very, very simple way of understanding, what I wanted to bring is just the idea of this. Imagine that in the previous world, we grew up believing that the way to go is to have cities that were organized around the financial centers. At the beginning, let's say, let's go to the Persian Empire, and let's go to Mesopotamia and to the first cities that existed, and how, for example, they were organized around ways or identities that every city had and functions that every city had in the life of the community. But also, infrastructure that was in the city was created with the idea of, for example, accumulating the things that were farmed or that were harvested, and also places where you will trade with all those things. So commerce comes or trading comes from a long way ago. Then after that, when we had, for example, the invaders who came to Latin America or who came to Africa and spread the architecture and the different ways of developing cities. In the case of the Spanish architecture, we will find the cities created in something that is a reticular design. It's like a grid. And that grid has in the center a plaza or a park that has around all the government, the religion. So you will have the market or the place where you trade. Then you will have the government, that is the place from where you manage the city. Then you have the church, that is the place from when you indoctrinate the city, and you will have the important buildings around, right? Then the important families will be in the center, and at the outskirts, you'll find the families or the people who were not so important, or people who were working for all these important families. Why am I mentioning this? Because at some point, what happened with the war is that we come from, let's say, a nomad background, or just kind of a nomad background in which we find the Tuaregs that were other people who are basically nomads. We find the Bedouins, there are people who are nomads, and they will travel, they will trade, they will take things, and those things that they will take, they needed to sell it somewhere. That's how cities originated at the end of the day, because cities became a point in which you will trade or exchange things that you will bring from your farm, from your lands, from your seeds. Then cities became important in the Industrial Revolution, and after actually one of the most damaging pandemics that existed in history, because of now the infrastructure in the farms and the places outside the cities was not so good. And we developed, or we needed to control better all those kinds of situations. So now the most important people were not the feuds, or were not the people who own the land, but now the people who trade, the people who are in the cities and the people who do business. For a very long time, what was more convenient was to have all your business in one place. It started with the factories and bringing all your employees to manufacture things that were very analog, very technical. And then eventually it became the services. And so that's why, for example, now we have offices with people working from one place, offering you services or managing finances or controlling the operations of the manufacturing arm of your company or your business. What's happening is that eventually the life of the people evolved and the cities became so congested. Saskia Sassem, who is one of the best sociologists in the whole history, wrote this amazing book about the dispersed city and how, for example, now the cities are going to be more important than the countries, and the cities are going to accumulate the power in the economy, and some of the cities are going to be richer. This was back ago, some years ago, and now we are seeing exactly that. Now, for example, instead of you saying, I'm going to the United Arab Emirates, you go to Dubai, right? And Dubai is actually a city that is part of the United Arab Emirates. Yes, it's an emirate as well, but it's part of the country. If you go to the US, what you will identify as the center of power is what? New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Boston, Washington. If you go to France, you identify Paris. If you go to the UK, you identify London. Probably you don't know many other places, many other cities, you don't know the farms, you don't know how people live in the small towns, but you know that city has everything, right? And that city is the place where power happens. So because of that cities are so powerful, what started to become a thing was the nomad traveling and the nomad businesses. Why? Because now every city has an identity. For example, you find London as one of the financial centers of the world. That's what you identify London with. If you, for example, find Paris, you identify Paris as the fashion center of the world, right? The place where they happen. If you identify Istanbul, you identify Istanbul where all the manufacturing happening, where all the manufacture happens. And so with cities around the world. And now instead of having your services allocated in one place, you have kind of warehouses where you find services and you find people who are specialized or experts in that. And those people also want to travel to the other places that are specialized. A nomad company is basically a structure that allows people to travel and to work from different places and that has products that are manufactured and developed in different sites. But also is a structure that creates something called localization. Basically think global and act local. Basically finding, for example, what's the best thing of a country, buying things from that country in the things that they do the best, and so with the other places where you have your business. So now your business is not anymore centralized in one place, and not instead of bringing talent from all over the world to one place to live, you allow that talent to live in their environments, to be happy in their environments, and you just connect the dots or connect the parts of the production that you are developing. But also, if for example you have production of another products like we have, like fashion, instead of buying things from one country and transporting them everywhere, what you do is you find the products that you like in different places, or you find manufacturers, or you find a standard and you create it in different places, and that way you develop the local economy. A nomad business is something that actually doesn't need offices sometimes. Most of the times you don't need offices in a nomad business, and what is growing right now and what is booming is another of the businesses that we are at that is like the whole co-living space, and making sure that people, when they arrive to a city, they have a super nice place where they can work from, with amazing infrastructure, well surrounded and well located, and that thing or that place is dynamic enough to make sure that more people are accommodated, but that things are happening that connect that people with the local environment or the local ecosystem. So you may be asking, how can I then start a nomad business if, for example, I have like types of businesses that can't be created in the nomad space? And here's the thing. The first thing that we need, or the first stereotype or the first prejudice that we need just to get rid of is the idea that any nomad company or any nomad business is only a business that is based in the digital world. That's not true. Yes, we had the past 20 years, probably even more, Silicon Valley origins were not in the 2000s, right? Like that happened from the 1991 after the US government decided to make internet something public, and people now started to create things in internet. That was the blockchain of the time. That was the quantic the quantic technology of the time. It was something new, and there was a lot of work and a lot of things that were happening. This is when all this 4.0, 3.0 revolution started. And now all the digital revolution started. So we have a lot of startups that were based and so on in the digital world, because we needed to create services, we needed to create infrastructure and ecosystem that works on the digital world. But what's happening every day is that now, because of people are connected, with the pass of the days or as the time passes, what we need is to create hybrid businesses. Businesses that work in the digital world, or that can operate or market themselves in the digital world, but that operate as well in the physical world. Businesses that are close to you. Now people don't want, for example, only to invest in social media, or now people don't want only to connect via social media. Now people want to actually know who is around. Now people want to know hey, how can I get to know people in my local environment? How can I make friends? Now people want, for example, to find services in the country where that they are going to, because they don't have much time to go to the yellow pages that we used to have and so on, or to ask for referrals. Sometimes they don't know somebody. So now they want to find services, now they want to find products, now they want to find places, now they want to live their life, even find love. So if you analyze the evolution of the digital world to what's happening right now, what we have is a world that is mixing and is fading that gray line that is between both, or that separation life that is between the digital and the physical world. And that's why we need services and nomad companies. So nomad companies can be based just in the digital world, but can be also based in things that are not necessarily digital. Can be, for example, companies that manufacture furniture, can be companies that manufacture clothes, can be companies that offer hospitality. In fact, hospitality is a big business to invest in the terms of the nomad companies, because in the case of hospitality, again, Now what people are looking is not the traditional, like, let's say, ancient structures of hotels that are super big and that offer this and this and this thing. People want to have some flavor, and that's why they prefer to look for experiences that are micro, and that's something that is called cloud hotels. That is basically the Airbnb apartments you all know that are in different places in the same city with similar furniture, but with different vibes in the building and with different things around. People want to live that type of experiences. And another things that you could invest in terms of like the nomad businesses can be your own talent. So we are going to talk in the next episode about like how to actually live out of your talent and being a nomad. But what I want to leave as a message for this one is Nomad Company can be created and needs to be created because it's going to help us not only to develop our talents around the world and to offer products everywhere in the world, but also to stop the growth of the cities in a so accelerated way. It's going to help us to develop less office infrastructures. It's going to help us to reduce the indirect like contamination that we produce by using like transportation and so to go from the place where you live to the place where you work. And it's going to help us, of course, to have better structures with our families and with the families of the people that are working for you. Instead of having people that have to come to your office at 5:30 in the morning because they will find a lot of traffic and then have to leave the office after the traffic is gone. And then when they arrive, their families are sleeping or like people are tired or so on. You will have structures of families that are actually happier, and you will have people that work for results instead of like by time. You have people that work for you achieving or fulfilling goals instead of people that are working for you achieving or fulfilling time and expecting for a paycheck. Now people are going to be not only more committed, but also you are going to have better results and a better environment of work.